Hi, and welcome. It's Jules Muller, founder and CEO of ChicksConnect. And today we're super excited to have Dr. Robyn MacKillop with us. She is going to be teaching us learning with style. So take it away, Dr. Robyn.
All right. Hi, everybody. And again, I am Dr. Robyn MacKillop. I help business women get noticed online, get visible online. And if you've got a great idea, I'll help you write an online course. And if you're in business, you already have lots of great ideas, so I can help you put that into something that makes you some money. And today we're going to talk about learning in style, and really it's about learning styles, how we take in information and process. There is no hard and fast rule, and there are lots and lots of quizzes online you can take, and sometimes you may get different results. But we have preferred styles of learning. We have preferred ways of taking in and processing information. And those tend to crop up and show themselves. And a lot of us can probably figure out how we like to learn. Do we like to do things? Do we learn best when we're doing something? We've got our hands in it. Do we learn best by listening? Do we know all the words to every song we've ever heard? If you do, you're likely an auditory listener. Do you like to see things? You want to see pictures, colors, images. Is that how you take in your information best? And every one of us uses all of these at different times, and sometimes we use a combination of them. But it's fun. It's like reading your horoscope. It's fun to know something about you. And I'm not sure that you know a lot about yourself when you read your horoscope, but with learning styles, you can figure out how to work an environment that you may not be comfortable in to your advantage. And that's important when you're listening to someone talk at you if you're not an auditory learner. So I'll try not to talk at you. Nobody loves that. All right, so I'm going to attempt to share my screen. Hi, Angela. Because I made this really pretty PowerPoint. Can everybody see that? And I have not yet figured out how to get the slides off the side. It used to be so easy. All right, so learning in style with me. And one of the first things, I'm likely to end up talking about stuff before I even show you the slides, so bear with me. So again, we all process information differently, whether we are in a classroom or a business setting or a conference or even in a family get-together. There's information coming at us all the time, and we have certain ways that we prefer to take it in. We don't always get to be in the preferred teaching environment, but again, there are some tricks and tips to make sure that it works best for you. And again, we don't use one. Even if we have a strong preference to one, we use all styles. Otherwise, I think if I didn't use them all, I'd be living in a cave. And that wouldn't make me happy because I'm an extrovert. And again, you prefer. It's not what you are or how you do everything. It's what you prefer. And I think that's very important to know. Because again, no one is defined by anything except what you want to be defined by. So don't let a learning style be a definition of you either. So you're unique. We all are. This is why we do what we do, because we do it the best way we can, because we are who we are. What's interesting to me is, as we were growing up through grade school, middle school, high school, I think a lot of us had very similar environments in that we were sitting at a desk in rows. We listened to what the teacher was talking about. Maybe we listened, maybe we looked out the window and daydreamed. Some of us would take notes. Some of us would tap our fingers while the teacher was talking. Some of us really liked it if they had notes or a book or something that we could kind of follow along with. And things haven't changed. It's been a long time since I was in any of those schools, elementary, middle, or high. And I teach at a college. And a lot of it is very similar to what I was brought up on. And I wasn't a great student. I was smart, but I wasn't a great student because I hated being lectured to. And I wouldn't do my homework because homework was boring. And it was usually based off of what the teacher was talking about. I was not interested. I didn't listen to the teacher. I didn't want to go home and do homework on what the teacher was talking about. And I didn't have internet when I was growing up. No internet. I had to go to the library, check out books. I had to actually look through resources. And I think some of you can remember those days. You couldn't just Google it. And that was my preferred way of doing it. If the teacher would tell me what something was going to be based on, the test or a paper, I'd go find the information myself in the library because I liked to read. I liked to move. It was really difficult for me to sit still in a desk, not talking to my friends. Are you kidding? Why am I at school? It's to socialize me, right? I want to be talking to everybody in class. I don't want to be quiet for 45 minutes or longer. I want to be doing what makes sense to me and what's going to help me.
Dr. Robyn?
Yes.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but I think your top left where it says from beginning will format your slides a little bit better on the screen. I don't know, maybe if it's just mine, but then you just hit the tab, the arrows left and right, and I think you'll be able to scroll through. Does that work on your end? There we go. We can see it a little bit better now.
Okay. And do you see the little one?
I see it on the right side a little bit, but the first time it was cutting off your presentation for the recording.
Oh.
So I'm hoping this is, can anybody give a thumbs up if you see it better on your end?
It was fine on mine before. Oh, wait.
I think it's the presenting button that you need to have, Robyn. If you go back.
I see it great right there, but.
Yeah, okay.
Does everybody else see it okay?
I see everything fine.
I have your next slide. So do you want your next slide to be seen?
It's okay because I end up talking over my slides anyway. I'm a terrible slide presenter.
Well, right before, whatever you did just before that, it filled the screen perfectly. So anyway, I'm sorry to mess it up. I'm just hoping the recording catches it for those that are watching.
And if not, I can always put this in the group.
We can attach it. Perfect.
Yes. And because I've got some other activities that are not on this and I'm going to have to put in the group. So anyway, now you know my story about being a child in school. And I was not a troublemaker. I think that should be known. All right, I think we went through this one. You are unique. You learn the way that you learn, and there's nothing wrong with it. Just because someone else may learn differently does not make you different or wrong. You're unique. Everyone is unique. So there are some good things about knowing your learning styles. And again, if you are at a conference, oftentimes you are forced to be sitting in an audience, maybe 100, 200 people, 300 people or more, and someone's on stage talking at you. And that happens day after day after day for these big conferences. I know anyone who's in an MLM and goes to one of their company conferences, there's a lot of people and there are a lot of speakers. And you're getting a lot of information thrown at you from a stage, people talking, sometimes using PowerPoints, but sometimes not. And if you are not comfortable as an auditory learner sitting quietly and taking in that verbal information, it can be a little harder for you to hang on and stay attentive because you want to be doing something. You want to be moving, at least walking around the room. you'll often see at things like that where adults are up standing against the wall. That does two things. One, it gets their blood moving, but two, standing up after being seated for quite a while increases the oxygen to your brain by 15%. And for those, Jules probably knows this because she taught, did she teach in elementary?
All three.
Middle.
All of them.
So elementary students are, especially little boys, are notorious for standing on one leg with their knee in their chair. And I've been in classrooms when I was a tag coordinator where teachers would holler at these young kids because they weren't seated. What these kids were doing was allowing themselves to continue taking in information and learning. And some teachers didn't like it. You have to be seated. You have to have your rear end in the seat. No, let them stand at their desk. They've increased the oxygen to their brain. They've moved their bodies. They are not auditory learners. They are kinesthetic. And who's got grandkids? Cindy, you can attest to this. Your boys want to move. They're busy, and girls want to move too. It's not sexist, but it just happens to be that boys tend to be more mobile in a classroom than girls. It's a maturity thing, but that's all right. Knowing your learning styles helps you build confidence in your ability to take in information. If you do find yourself in a classroom setting, that can be daunting as an adult. It's not what we expected. We figured, well, once we graduated high school or college, we're done with that stuff, right? Not always, depending on if you're getting certifications or if you're learning new techniques and strategies to build your business. You may find yourself in a classroom environment. And sometimes that brings up all those old feelings of being in the classroom as a youngster, and it's not always great. And so knowing how you learn and how you take in information and what you need helps you to get around a less than ideal teaching environment. It gives you the power to say, okay, I'm going to be lectured to for the next 3 hours. I'm not going to be able to do it, but I can take notes. I can stand up. I can go out and stand against the wall while listening. I can do other things while still taking in the information. And that will help you with your kinesthetic and your visual. So, because the three main ones are auditory, kinesthetic, visual. Hear, move, see. And always, always, always go with what works for you. Oh my goodness. Let's see if I can do this. I'm going to turn off the share. Stop share. Ooh, since there's only 5 of you, I might be able to do it. This won't work well for people who are watching afterwards. All right, so I'm going to ask you a series of questions, and I want you to think about them. You don't need to write down the answer. You don't need to prepare your story, but I'll give you a little bit of time in between each question. Just think about the question itself, the answer to the question, but don't think I'm going to call on you and say, okay, time to present. Nobody loves that. All right. What do you remember about your last birthday?
Absolutely nothing.
That's where
Some people can't stand silence. All right, here's another one. What do you remember about your last family outing?
Oh.
I know 3 of you already. And I've only asked 2 questions. What was your favorite childhood memory?
Good one.
All right. You want to know what I came up with?
Hopefully answers to all those questions because I don't know.
I know.
So Jules and Cindy were the hardest. Beverly was easy. Tess, I had to watch twice. Beverly, you are I should probably be prepared before I say, Beverly, you are.
What is she?
Yeah.
She's awesome, is what she is. So, Beverly, you would probably prefer, why am I having trouble with this? I'm sorry, you guys. So you probably like to see things. Do you prefer to see rather than be told?
Yes. Yes.
So I say that because when I asked those questions, you looked up. People who are visual preferenced tend to look up when asked to remember or recall something. This is not scientific, but it's fun. Jules looked to the side. That means Jules may be comfortable hearing information and processing it. And Cindy was just looking at me, so that one was hard. And Tess lowered her eyes, which means Tess feels, and this I happen to know because I know Tess, I know she feels deeply, and it means kinesthetic. She wants to be involved. She wants to relive and be part of. Does that make sense?
Well, I also have a notebook I was writing.
Oh, and see, there are always outliers.
And you can't see my notebook, right?
Yeah.
That's what I would do. I looked down. I probably did look down, and then I would write, right?
Yeah, and Bev was the easiest because she looked up. Absolutely.
I have to think.
Yeah, and you're visual, so you're looking at your memory in a way. If you're looking to the side, when you think about it, you're thinking about the sounds and what was going on, the conversations. And if you're looking down, you're thinking about the movement, the activity, the feeling. So it's a very interesting, and none of this is hard and fast because you could potentially, depending on the question, Bev could have looked sideways or she could have looked down. So none of this is hard and fast. It's just interesting. And what it does is it sets you up for when you are in an environment that may not be your perfect teaching environment. It allows you to make some decisions about how you're going to take in the information, how much time you can actually sit in a chair or not sit in a chair. How's that?
Interesting.
Right.
Yeah.
Very good.
Yeah.
You go over Cindy's, you went over Jules and Beverly. Did you do Cindy?
Cindy stared at me.
So what does that mean?
I was thinking. I really was. I was thinking. Yeah. I remember my family, the last family activity, but birthday, have no clue. And what was the other one?
Your last family outing.
Childhood thing.
Yeah, childhood memory.
There were a lot of them. But
And it's interesting because you kept your eyes on the camera.
yeah.
You didn't even move your head. You just
She's been trained, a movie star, you know, she's been trained to keep her eyes on this.
followed the lens.
Yeah.
She learned well in my video class. Just
You
keep
know,
looking
the
at
little
lens.
question marks going up, you know, like,
I did see
Yeah.
Bev, like right after you asked the question, I saw Bev and her eyes went up like this, like the retrieval, like you were talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's fun and it's fascinating.
yeah.
And the great thing about it is you can make any environment where you are learning something, you can make it work for you, even if it's not being presented in the way you would prefer.
Okay.
it's an element of control that you don't have when you're not running the show.
Well, I think it's cool that you had 3 of us do all of the hearing, the visual.
Yeah. Yeah, so 5 people.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, and Cindy's just the outlier because Cindy's been through my video class. She knows. Focus on the lens.
Yeah.
So she was following instructions.
Exactly.
Such a rule follower.
Although you did break the rule because you answered one of the questions.
I did. And you know what? I missed that very first part that you weren't supposed to talk.
But see, it doesn't matter because it didn't mess up anything that I was talking about or teaching.
Oh, good.
See, and that's why I say it's so important to have an idea of how you prefer to learn, because you will be in situations where it's not comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
And, it's like the story I told you about being a student in school, sitting in a desk, looking forward, not talking to anybody. What was school for but to talk with my friends?
Right.
I understood what they were teaching. It wasn't my fault that I understood it before they got it all out. Right? So.
My 5th grade teacher, I was looking through some stuff at my parents' house, all the old tubs of, keepsake stuff. And one of my report cards in 5th grade, it said, whatever. It was only like, they didn't do grades in grade school. It was like needs improvement, steady growth or something like that. But in the comments, it says, Julie talks to the boys too much.
Oh my God, you need to frame that one.
And I was like, why are they, why just the boys? Oops.
Yeah. Did she take into account who you were sitting around? Did they do you out? So you had boys on both sides and boys in front and back.
And do you remember being boy crazy or anything?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I'm sure they were right.
There's that.
But I don't know that it was necessarily boy crazy or if I was a tomboy. Like I would play soccer with them. I'd be out there in my Cherokees running around in my skirt or whatever, but I would play
in her Cherokees.
Everything. Remember the Cherokees, the wedge?
Yes, I had a pair.
And the roller coaster shoes and stuff.
Oh my gosh.
But that's who I prefer because I was active. I mean, you're talking about, kinesthetic. So I have this little snowman thing. So the whole time Robyn's talking, I'm going around the edge. That could be OCD, kinesthetic, whatever. But the whole time, that's kind of soothing to me because I need to be moving like she was talking about, right?
Yes.
And so just following this little snowman around with my finger the entire time she's talking helped me focus on what she was saying. So it really is fascinating. But it breaks your heart when you, like what you were saying in the classroom, if a kid needs to wiggle in his seat or move around. I taught with Kate Kelleher. So those of you that know Kate, I learned so much from Kate and my mentor teachers, but one of the things was, they would bring in a ball for them to sit on because part of that, when you're balancing, that helps with the moving around. We would give kids balls of clay, and so they could have it at their desk and just kind of move it around, or dice or something so that they can be moving their hands. So, exactly what you're talking about, because it's painful if it's not your learning style to sit there 6 hours or whatever it is in a classroom. So yeah but
and interestingly, auditory learning is the smaller percentage of the 3 biggies. And how do we teach our students, whether they're 6 or 60? In classrooms, in rows, with the teacher talking, sage on the stage. And what most students need, no matter what age, is the guide on the side. Let me know what I need to know, and then let me do it, or let me read it, or let me color it out, or see images of it. Show me the pictures. And I was a reader, so I liked to read. I didn't mind reading the books that I had to read. That was not an issue for me, but I could read really fast, and I did. I was ahead of the teacher. By the time we got through World War II, I was like, I'm well into the Korean War. You know, but that wasn't what a teacher wanted to hear. And of course, me.
A little rebel.
I was going to say, what's your
Authority.
chapter called? The Rebel Chicks.
The Rebel Chicks. Yes. And I tell my college students now, always question authority, even if it's me. And they look at me, are you sure? Yes. You have to know your world. You have to know what works best for you and your family. You don't accommodate the world. You find your place and who you are. And we're not talking arrogance and I'm better than everybody. We're talking you find how you work in the world and make it work for you. And certainly for your kids. You know, we've got people with children and grandchildren who are stuck in the same educational system we were. And it's 2019. We should be doing something a whole lot differently. Because we don't need to train our children to answer to a bell system. They don't have to get up at 5 a.m. to shuck the fields or feed the cows or whatever, you know, the whole agricultural revolution that put the parameters on education as we know it. It's a new world. So, and that's a whole nother soapbox. I won't go into that. It's a big soapbox. So any questions?
I wanted to find out more about their learning style. How you mentioned some tests online, but are there things you recommend?
I do. I've got written fill in. What am I trying to say? I have got ones you can do on paper pencil for those of us who are kinesthetic and don't want to just push dots on a screen. You can actually mark. And the whole key to which one is probably your strongest and your least, and you can see how you'll use all three at all different times. I've also got consult calls for people who are interested in going a little deeper about how this matters for business people. We've been talking about students because students are easy. We've all been students. A lot of us are still students. All of us are lifelong learners. But what does this mean if you're in business? And so that's probably another class. You know, what do I do with my team members? Do I want to just tell them, or do I want them to do some things themselves? So, things like that. And the best way to get hold of me is through realrobyn.com. And the email is yes@realrobyn.com.
That's ROBYN.
Yes.
realrobyn.com.
And I'll be pushing out some classes that are coming up. I was going to have all the links ready and they're not working. And I don't know why. So I will dig in.
We can put it in the comments and in the description.
Yeah. That's one of those things. I'll just get in and I'll mess around with it because I like to do rather than go read a manual. Or listen to a video. This is how you link those. Oh, I'll just do it. I'll figure it out.
Yeah.
Great. Well, any questions for Dr. Robyn?
No, I'm just going to clarify. You can be any style of learning, but you probably have a preference that you lean towards.
Yes.
So I could be a little bit visual, but something else if I want.
Yes.
All right. Good.
Yes.
Well, I think it might depend on the task too, right?
It could very much.
And what would it be if I do not read directions? I don't want to read directions at all, but I'll go to, I want to watch a video, like how to, I just looked something up. I don't know what it was, but I'm always on YouTube how-toing something, and I want them to show me, and then I want to get a couple steps, and then I want to rewind, and then get a couple more steps, and then so what's that?
So mainly visual. You want to see it being done, and then you want to go do it. So visual, kinesthetic.
Okay. But
Visual
if I just wanted to read it and leave me alone, what's that?
It's an element of visual, and most newer learning style definitions actually put reading and writing separate from visual.
Oh.
It's part of visual, but they've separated it out because it's not just watching. And again, these are fluid, so they don't pigeonhole anybody.
So what would reading and writing fall under?
It's a portion of visual. They've taken it out of visual.
Okay.
The visual used to encompass reading, writing, imagery, arts, where you can see things. Kinesthetic is doing the art.
Okay.
Visual is looking at the art. And they've decided that reading, while it used to be visual, and writing, which was kinesthetic, they've decided reading and writing is another preference, because not all visual people like to read, and not all kinesthetic people like to write.
Okay.
They want to do things, but they don't want the more mundane work, because writing can be difficult for some, just as reading can be.
Yeah. Okay.
That's interesting. And again, it just goes to show you that you can't be pigeonholed.
Yeah.
Because some days I love to read, and other days I want to go do something.
Well, and sometimes I think we put ourselves into a category and we don't realize that we can go outside of that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, so do they talk at all about comprehension? Like, I'll read it, but my mind will be enjoying what's happening over here while I'm reading. So even though my eyes will scan all the words and I'll say them, I don't know what I've just read, or I'll forget, or I just
because your attention is what you're hearing.
Yeah, right.
And when we did that little test of the questions, you look towards the side, which is towards your ear. So you have some auditory, and I again, we all have all of them. And I'm betting, just because I know you, anything that keeps you still and quiet is not a good thing.
Well, it's probably good for me.
I don't know.
Not necessarily comfortable. It's good for growth, right? We do our challenging things. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It does
But
get
for a
uncomfortable.
long learning thing,
I
that's
did.
probably not the best thing to do to you.
Yeah.
To make you sit still and be quiet.
Yeah. Yeah. Timeouts. Not good for me.
Yeah. Didn't enjoy those at all.
All right.
Awesome. Any other questions for Dr. Robyn? Okay, and when we get this posted, we'll put the links to find out more, and then anything that you recommend.
Yeah.
And wonderful. So thank you so much for sharing with us today. Thank all of you for being on the call. And I think we carry this discussion because I want to discuss some more, of course. Maybe offline in our Facebook group, we can talk about our big ahas and what we learned from this. So thank you so much, Robyn.
Thank you.
Thank you.